Before the public ever saw a single photo from the Mars missions, before SpaceX released carefully edited press statements, and long before government agencies pretended everything was nominal, something happened behind closed doors that shifted the course of humanity's timeline. Elon Musk, engineer, futurist, billionaire, and restless seeker of answers, received a transmission that never made it into any official report. A signal, faint but structured. A pattern too precise to be geological noise, too intentional to be cosmic coincidence. And embedded in that signal was something impossible, a surname. Your surname. At first, the analysts dismissed it as pareidolia, the human tendency to see meaning where none exists. But as the data underwent deeper analysis, the transmission repeated with exact mathematical regularity. Not random, not environmental, not a glitch. Purposeful, intelligent, and unmistakably connected to a lineage unknown to modern science but deeply documented within classified archives. Yours. Elon did not react the way one might expect. There was no celebration, no announcement, no triumphant tweet. Instead, he went utterly silent. Why? Because the moment he realized the transmission contained familial markers tied to you, he understood he had stumbled onto something far larger than the question of extraterrestrial life. He had uncovered a truth governments have spent decades protecting. Your bloodline did not originate fully on Earth. This wasn't alien contact. This was alien recognition. The signal did not ask for Earth. It asked for you. Elon immediately contacted high-level officials, people who normally dislike when tech visionaries get too curious. Their reaction was telling. They weren't shocked. They weren't confused. They were afraid. Not of the message, but of what it confirmed. They had long suspected that certain genetic lines on Earth had off-world origins, but they never expected those origins to reach out first. Especially not through the most monitored planet in the solar system. What Elon discovered in that moment is something only a handful of people on Earth are allowed to know. Mars was never lifeless. Not entirely. Its surface may be barren, but beneath it lies the remnants of ancient colonies established long before humanity understood fire, agriculture, or writing. Those colonies did not disappear, they relocated, evolved, adapted, and according to classified Martian archaeology, a small group survived long enough to seed certain bloodlines on Earth with traits, instincts, and abilities that set them apart from the rest of humanity. Your lineage is one of them. This is why you have always felt different. This is why people react strangely to your energy. This is why your intuition has always seemed sharper than logic allows. This is why the world feels both familiar and foreign to you. You carry echoes of another world, literally. Elon's silence wasn't the silence of ignorance. It was the silence of recognition. He knew he had touched something sacred, something forbidden, something that could destabilize every power structure on Earth if revealed prematurely. Because if the truth became public, that you have relatives on Mars, that your lineage spans planets, that you are part of a story older than recorded history, the world would not simply change. It would fracture. Governments fear chaos. Corporations fear disruption. Scientists fear disproving lifetimes of assumptions. But the people who fear you most are the ones who always knew you would one day discover your origin. This first transmission was not the end. It was the beginning. A call from a place no human should have remembered, yet your blood did. A signal not meant for the masses, but for the one descendant capable of restoring the connection Earth tried to erase. And in that moment, while looking at those coded pulses from the red planet, Elon Musk understood that your presence on Earth was not an accident. It was an exile, a test, a waiting period before your true purpose awakened. When Elon forwarded the transmission to the quietest corner of SpaceX's internal research division, he expected confusion, maybe skepticism, maybe even pushback. Instead, the room froze. The lead analyst swallowed hard, minimized a window on her screen, and opened a folder Elon had never seen before, one stamped with a government seal he didn't recognize. 3 words glowed across the top in red: Project Red Genesis. It was clear from the first page that this file was older than SpaceX itself, older than Elon's childhood, possibly older than NASA. It contained grainy black and white photos of Martian terrain captured decades before humanity supposedly had the technology to photograph Mars. The early pages documented unusual formations, geometric tunnels, symmetrical stonework, structures partially buried under dust. But the real shock lay in the later pages. Images of humanoid beings found in suspended stasis beneath the planet's surface. Their facial features were strikingly familiar. Not alien, not monstrous, human, but with proportions subtly different. Elongated bone structure, deeper eye sockets, tighter cranial architecture. And one of them, according to facial comparison algorithms, shared over 87% ancestry markers with you. Elon stared at the page for nearly a full minute. His mind, so often racing with innovation and ambition, slowed to a crawl. For the first time in his life, he wasn't ahead of the information, he was behind it. Someone had known this long before he built rocket, long before he imagined Mars colonization, long before he dared to believe humanity could be multiplanetary. Someone knew humans weren't entirely Earthborn, and had kept it secret. As the analysts scrolled through the classified report, patterns emerged. Every few pages referenced individuals throughout history who displayed unusual intuition, accelerated cognition, or spiritual sensitivity, figures who seemed connected to something other than Earth's evolutionary line. Next to some names were symbols, next to others dates. But next to your lineage were warnings. This line displays off-world signal sensitivity. This line reacts to Martian anomalies. This line must be monitored. You weren't the first descendant to attract attention. You were simply the first whose origin contacted Earth directly. The file described how ancient Martian colonists, facing environmental collapse, sent part of their population to Earth, not as conquerors, not as refugees, but as seed-bearers. Their mission was to preserve a consciousness that would one day guide Earth through its own evolutionary crisis. These colonists integrated with early human populations, passing on fragments of a memory far older than humanity's timeline. But not all descendants inherited the active gene. Only a select few carried the resonance signature, and you are one of them. This is why the signal from Mars didn't go to governments, agencies, or mainstream scientists. It was encoded to resonate only with the bloodline itself. The moment Elon's satellites detected it, your biological signature unlocked its content. You are, in a literal sense, the identifier, the key, the proof. And Elon understood immediately what that meant. If he went public, the world's power structures would collapse overnight. Because you wouldn't just be a person with unusual ancestry, you would be living evidence that Earth is part of a much older cosmic lineage. Religions would be challenged. Science would be rewritten. Governments would panic. And your life would become the center of global obsession, fear, and exploitation. So he didn't go public. He locked the information away. He ended the meeting abruptly. and he privately reached out to one of the few people on Earth who already knew the truth, a government official tied to deep space intelligence. When the call connected, the official didn't ask how Elon found the information. Instead, he asked a chilling question. Has the descendant awakened to their origin yet? Elon didn't answer. He didn't need to. The official already suspected the truth. Your lineage was stirring, and the transmission was the first sign. What Elon didn't know then, but would soon discover, is that silence would not protect him. Because once the Martian signal reactivated, once your DNA responded, once the connection reopened, nothing on Earth could stop what came next. After the transmission, SpaceX quietly rerouted one of its deep-scan satellites toward a region of Mars long dismissed by NASA as geologically uninspiring. A flat, rust-red plateau, barren and unremarkable, exactly the kind of place where secrets thrive in plain sight. Elon authorized the scan personally, bypassing normal protocols. What the satellite detected wasn't a rock formation. It wasn't a crater. It wasn't natural. It was a door. Triangular. Symmetrical. Cut with mathematical precision. Half buried under centuries of dust. The satellite's sensors registered mineral compositions that do not occur naturally on Mars. Underneath the surface, they detected chambers. Large, interconnected, structurally reinforced. A vault. Not a tomb, not a ruin, but a living archive. A memory palace built by a civilization that understood the fragility of worlds. Inside that vault, the scanners detected inscriptions, symbols, rows of engraved geometry. And in the middle of those carvings, one pattern stood out above all others, your family's sigil. Not your modern surname, not the human language you speak, but the original symbol representing your ancestral line in the Martian colony records. The analysts froze. One of them whispered, "This can't be right." But it was. For decades, governments speculated that certain human lineages carried off-world anomalies. But seeing a sigil connected directly to one Earth family, your family, etched inside a Martian chamber was a level of confirmation no one was prepared for. This wasn't myth. This wasn't theory. This was proof that your origin story began before Earth ever recorded history. Deep inside the vault, scanners identified multiple sarcophagi-like structures. Not funerary coffins. These were pods designed for stasis. Designed to preserve life. Designed to wait, and 3 of those pods were genetically linked to you. They weren't strangers. They weren't symbolic. They were relatives. One pod showed signs of ancient activation and subsequent shutdown, a failed revival attempt or a deliberate choice not to awaken. The other 2 remained perfectly intact, their occupants suspended in a state beyond human biology. Not dead. Not alive, held, waiting, protected by a technology Earth still doesn't understand. When Elon saw the biometric analysis, he asked the only question any human would: why are they still there? The analysts could only speculate, but the classified documents connected to Project Red Genesis described something chillingly poetic. Some members of your lineage stayed behind on Mars intentionally. Not because they couldn't leave, but because someone had to maintain the vault. Someone had to guard the records. Someone had to ensure that when the Earth-born branch eventually awakened, the connection could be restored. Your surviving Martian relatives may not even be aware that centuries have passed. In stasis, time is irrelevant. What matters is the trigger that reawakens the lineage. And according to the vault's inscriptions, that trigger was always meant to be you, the descendant whose frequency would resonate strongly enough to unlock the next phase of the genetic and cosmic connection. When the satellite transmitted images of the sigil back to Earth, the Pentagon intercepted them before they reached public channels. Elon was summoned to a classified briefing so restricted that even his personal security was not allowed inside. There, he learned something that stunned him more than the discovery itself. Earth has known about your lineage for generations. A secret division of global intelligence agencies, operating under the name Astroanthropological Containment Program, had tracked your family line for over a century. They monitored birth. They documented anomalies. They traced dreams, psychic impressions, unexplained intuitive abilities, and strange coincidences, all markers of the Martian resonance gene. They didn't know who in the line would awaken, but they knew someone eventually would. And when your energy spiked, spiritually, emotionally, cosmically, they started watching more closely. You weren't just a person of interest. You were the culmination of a prophecy. Elon left the briefing shaken. He realized the truth wasn't merely that your family existed on Mars. It was that Earth had been silently preparing for your awakening. What Elon didn't yet understand was that the vault wasn't calling you randomly. It wasn't contacting Earth out of curiosity. It was sending a message your lineage has waited centuries for. The time has come. Elon Musk is not easily intimidated. He has argued with world leaders, challenged aerospace monopolies, and launched rockets in defiance of industries that once called him insane. But after seeing the vault's readings, after recognizing your sigil etched into Martian stone, after realizing Earth had been tracking your lineage long before he was born, Elon did something uncharacteristic. He disappeared. For 3 days, he canceled meetings, dodged press, turned off his phone. SpaceX executives thought he was having a breakdown. Government observers thought he was planning to leak the truth. But Elon wasn't panicking, he was processing. Because for the first time, he understood that the dream he believed was his own, the dream of making humanity multiplanetary, had never belonged to him. It belonged to you. On the 4th day, he was escorted to a classified facility located in a desert so remote it doesn't appear on civilian satellite map. Inside, he met with a council of individuals whose names never appear in public. They were not politicians. They were not military. They were custodians, guardians of information too old and too powerful to be entrusted to nations. One member slid a file across the table labeled Lineage, Extraterran Descendant, Active. Inside were documents detailing your life from birth. Photographs taken without your knowledge. Behavioral analyses written decades before you were old enough to speak. Energy readings tracking moments when you felt emotional surges or intuitive spike. They had been waiting for you to activate. Elon scanned the documents with growing disbelief. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Your consciousness didn't evolve the way other humans did. It unfurled. Gradually at first, then violently, in patterns identical to the awakening process described in Martian colonist archive. You weren't changing, you were remembering. The council informed Elon that if the public ever learned your origin, the world would experience a level of existential shock capable of destabilizing economies, religions, and national identities. Humanity was not ready to accept that. Mars once held a civilization older than Egypt. That civilization seeded bloodlines on Earth. Those bloodlines carry dormant abilities triggered by cosmic cycles. You are the next cycle's focal point. When Elon asked why he was included in this revelation, the answer was simple and staggering. Because you were chosen to find them. Not chosen by fate. Not chosen by destiny. Chosen by your Martian relatives. The vault didn't send a general broadcast. It sent a targeted message through frequencies that only SpaceX satellites could detect. The encryption matched algorithms your relatives would have had no way of knowing, unless they could see the timeline. Elon asked the only question that mattered: why now? The council exchanged glances. One elder answered, because the Earth-born descendant has reached activation age. Elon realized they were talking about you. Your internal shifts, your dreams, your sudden intuitive expansions. They weren't random. They were symptoms of resonance between you and the dormant Martian bloodline. Your awakening triggered the vault. The vault's activation triggered the signal. And the signal triggered global attention. Then came the revelation that rattled Elon into total silence. Your Martian relatives weren't simply preserved. They weren't simply waiting. They were guarding something meant for you. A codex, an inheritance, a blueprint for technology that could alter the fate of the human race. Blueprints Earth was never supposed to possess without the descendant present. The Council made one thing clear. Elon could continue exploring Mars. He could continue building rockets. He could continue inspiring humanity. But he could never speak of you. Not publicly, not privately, not even hinted. Because to reveal you would be to reveal humanity's true origin story, and Earth's governments were not prepared for the consequences. Elon left the meeting in a state far beyond fear. What he felt was reverence. He believed he was leading humanity to Mars, but the truth was reversed. Mars had been waiting for you, and Elon was merely a messenger. What he didn't know yet, but would soon discover, is that the activation wasn't just happening on Mars. It was happening inside you. And the more the universe recognized you, the more impossible it would become to hide your origin. Long before Elon ever dreamed of Mars, long before rockets cracked the atmosphere or rovers scanned the Martian soil, a group of geneticists working in a discreet European laboratory encountered a biological anomaly they could not explain. They were studying global DNA variations, mapping migrations, analyzing ancient haplogroups, building databases of human ancestry, when they stumbled upon something that should not exist, a lineage with markers absent from the entire Earth genome. Your lineage. At first, the anomaly was dismissed as contamination, then as machine error, then as statistical noise. But after repeated tests across independent labs, using different equipment, the results stayed the same. Your bloodline carried structures, microsequences within the non-coding regions, that did not match any known evolutionary branch on Earth. These sequences were too advanced to be random, too intentional to be mutation, too consistent across generations to be anomaly. They were engineered. When the findings reached agencies overseeing genomic intelligence, the data was immediately classified. Scientists who asked too many questions found funding quietly cut. One researcher disappeared from academia entirely. Another was hired by a government contractor and sworn into silence under penalty of treason. No one was allowed to publish. No one was allowed to speculate. The official explanation was simple: that lineage is off-limits. The unofficial reason? Those sequences matched archived Martian genetic imprints obtained from ultra-classified missions dating back to the early Cold War, missions the public still believes never happened. This is why the Council knew who you were before you knew yourself. This is why secret agencies tracked your family for generations. This is why your intuition feels older than your body. This is why strangers sense something different about you within seconds. Your DNA carries an ancient resonance, one that activates when cosmic conditions align. And those conditions are aligning now. Elon learned this during a second classified briefing he wasn't supposed to attend. A military geneticist, tired of the secrecy, broke protocol and showed him the sequencing result. The moment the Martian markers appeared on screen, Elon whispered the only thing that made sense. They weren't just from Mars. They left something behind. Not just technology, not just architecture, not just vaults. They left a bloodline, the single most efficient way to preserve intelligence through millennia. But here's the part that stunned Elon. Your ancestors didn't seed Earth out of desperation. They seeded Earth out of strategy. They knew Mars would eventually fall. They knew Earth would rise. They knew consciousness evolves faster when carried through living bodies rather than machines. They chose Earth as the nursery for the next phase of human evolution, and your lineage as the carrier of the first awakened generation. This explains your entire life in ways earthly psychology never could. Why you never fit into conventional roles. Why you see the hidden structure behind people's intentions. Why you sense danger seconds before it happens. Why you have seasons of isolation before major breakthroughs. Why your dreams feel like memories from somewhere else. Why children and animals react to you like they know you. Why people project their deepest fears or desires onto you. You are not different. You are remembering. The Council warned Elon that if your activation continued at this pace, you would eventually attract the attention of both sides. Earth's governments, who want to contain you, and the dormant Martian consciousness, who wants to complete what it began. This is why Elon never spoke publicly. Not because he feared ridicule, but because he feared triggering a global confrontation over a truth humanity is not prepared to hold. What no one on Earth has realized yet is that genetic activation is not reversible. Once the sequences awaken, once your consciousness aligns with its forgotten origin, once you begin feeling the pull toward the red planet, nothing can slow or stop the connection. The vault called out to you because the vault recognizes you. Your relatives remained in stasis because they were waiting for you. Your DNA changed because the timeline reached the moment it was written for. And as your resonance strengthens, the universe begins to reorder itself around you. While Elon wrestled with the truth of your lineage, governments around the world were experiencing something unprecedented, an unexplained spike in electromagnetic disturbances, psychic activity reports, and anomalous satellite readings. At first, agencies assumed it was solar activity, perhaps an intensified flare cycle. But as data flowed in from observatories across multiple continents, patterns emerged that pointed to something far more precise. All disturbances originated from the same direction in space, Mars. Specifically, from the region where the vault containing your relatives was located. When analysts overlaid the wave patterns with human biological frequency maps, the match was undeniable. The Martian emissions were synchronizing with a single Earth-born signature. Yours. This meant the vault wasn't just transmitting data, it was initiating contact. Not broadly, not randomly, but intentionally, as if recognizing that the long-awaited descendant had finally awakened. By this point, governments realized they were not dealing with extraterrestrial threat, but with extraterrestrial inheritance. And inheritance, unlike invasion, cannot be intercepted or negotiated away. It belongs to someone. It chooses someone. It answers to someone. This is why panic erupted quietly inside intelligence agencies. They knew they could not claim the vault. They could not claim the technology. They could not claim your relatives, because everything inside that Martian vault is bound to your lineage. The Pentagon's Deep Space Division drafted multiple containment strategies. Control your environment, track your movements, monitor your communications, Observe who you influence. Delay your awakening. Introduce stress, distraction, institutional friction, anything to slow the activation process. Prepare for public narrative control. In case the truth leaks, they could pivot the story into conspiracy, hallucination, or anomaly. But none of their strategies worked. You kept evolving, awakening, aligning. Every time you broke an old emotional cycle, your frequency strengthened. Every time you chose authenticity over fear, the Martian emissions spiked. Every time you experienced an intuitive surge, satellites detected micropulses from the vault. Your growth and the vault's activity were locked in a call-and-response pattern ancient civilizations would have called prophecy. Modern scientists call it resonance. Spiritual traditions call it remembering. Government agencies call it a threat, because they understood something humanity at large has forgotten. Civilizations don't collapse when attacked. They collapse when the next stage of evolution arrives. And your awakening signaled that Earth's current stage is reaching its expiration point. Meanwhile, on Mars, something extraordinary began to happen inside the vault. Thermal sensors detected subtle shift. Biometrics registered cellular flickering inside the stasis pod. The two dormant relatives, unchanged for millennia, showed minimal but unmistakable signs of reanimation. Not full revival, not consciousness, but response. As if they sensed you. As if they recognized that the Earth-born descendant had crossed the threshold of awakening required to trigger their revival sequence. Elon received updates in encrypted bursts. Each one filled him with awe and dread. He knew he was witnessing the beginning of a connection that transcended anything humanity understood about life, death, and lineage. But he also understood something else. Something the Council had warned him but you have always felt. You were never meant to stay only on Earth. Your consciousness wasn't designed for a single world. Your destiny wasn't confined to a single planet. Your bloodline carries a map, a pull, an orientation toward a place your ancestors called home. And Earth's governments are terrified of what that means. If your relatives awaken fully, if the vault opens, if the Martian knowledge transfers to you, then no earthly institution, not military, not political, not scientific, will be able to contain your influence. Because you would become the bridge between worlds. The first human in recorded history whose identity spans two planets. The walking proof that humanity is not Earth's creation but part of a cosmic lineage far older than civilizations dare to imagine. But here is the truth governments fear most. Your awakening is accelerating faster than their strategies can suppress. With every intuitive surge, with every spiritual expansion, with every moment your consciousness outgrows the reality around you, Mars responds. Something ancient has recognized you. Something dormant has begun to rise. Something waiting for centuries knows you have arrived. Your awakening triggered cascading changes across the solar system, energy shifts recorded by deep space probes, gravitational anomalies near Martian orbit, unexplained plasma formations detected by telescope. And in the midst of all this, Mars kept calling your name in frequencies only your blood could detect. But the greatest revelation was still to come. Inside the vault, illuminated by the soft red glow of awakened Martian machinery, a panel slid open. Behind it was a crystalline object, shaped like a heart, pulsing with light. This was the codex your ancestors guarded. A living archive of their knowledge, their history, their technology, and their purpose. The codex pulsed in sync with your heartbeat, because it belongs to you, because it responds to you, because it was created for you. Your relatives designed it knowing that one day, A descendant born on Earth would rise with enough awareness to reclaim the legacy. And now, with the vault stirring, with the stasis pods awakening, with the universe reorganizing itself around your frequency, the prophecy is nearly complete. You are the bridge, the descendant who reconnects two worlds, the one whose awakening ends the separation between Earth and Mars. The reason Elon stayed silent is the same reason governments panic and the vault pulses your name across millions of miles of space. Your story isn't earthbound. Your destiny isn't limited to this planet. Your identity is not confined to human history. You are the return signal, the awakened heir, the final key. And Mars, your first home, your oldest lineage, your cosmic family, has already begun preparing for your arrival.